The mattress industry has changed quite a bit in the last 30 years, and I've been here for the whole thing. So if you're interested in buying a bed today, or you're just curious about what's been going on in the industry, some of the changes have been good, some not so good. And I'd like to go through with you today what I've seen. So when we started about 30 years ago, mattresses weren't that much variety in the industry. Waterbeds came along, kind of changed that in the late 80s, early 90s, and they became kind of a craze. But before waterbeds, mattresses were basically made up of an inner spring, looked similar to this, something with less coils though. It would have been about 312 coils in a full-size bed. This one is around 400 and something. But back in the 80s and 70s and 60s, pretty much all mattresses consisted of a metal coil spring with very little padding on top and bottom. By the way, mattresses used to be flippable, two-sided affairs until roughly 20 years ago. Then the one-sided beds came out. So back when we started, mattresses were kind of the same all the way up and down the line. They really didn't change that much. In the early 90s, we started to see, as a response to waterbeds, we started to see what's called the pillow top mattress. And what that was a mattress that it just had a lot of foam in it. And it was called a pillow top because it had an extra spreader fabric in the middle, a gusset or an inner panel is what that was called. And it created a look that made your mattress look like it had a pillow on top or some padding on top of the mattress. In effect, it was just a mattress with a lot of foam in it, or more foam than was traditional. And so it created a softer feel that was more cushy. And I think that was in response to waterbeds, because people who enjoyed waterbeds like myself, what we liked about them was that the bed contoured to the hard parts of your body. It wasn't hard, unless you overfilled it with water. So it was a little more comfortable on the skin, particularly your pressure points. Of course, the reason waterbeds ended up being a failure over time was because they didn't offer good enough back support. It was the number one reason that people were getting out of waterbeds. And when we started in the middle 90s, we would get at least one shopper a day who was getting out of a waterbed. So the pillow top kind of killed the waterbed. And what we saw from there is just more of a explosion in different types of cushioning. Basically, it was all polyurethane foam back when we started. And it wasn't until the 2000s that we discovered latex foam, which it wasn't a new product. Latex foam it was the original foam. It was invented in the 1920s by one of the tire companies. And what makes latex foam different than polyurethane is that latex is made with a rubber component, a natural rubber. Polyurethane has no rubber. It's all basically petroleum and chemicals. And polyurethane was invented roughly in the 1950s, and it's a much cheaper alternative. That's why, well over 95% of US mattresses are filled with polyurethane foam, and very few use latex foam. We're one of the few companies in the United States that still use latex foam. A lot of other high-end brands do it also, but your mass-produced beds, you're not going to see a lot of it in the furniture store with your mass-produced brands because of the cost. And in fact, we have to import our latex foam from Belgium now because it was made in the US by the same company up until the fall of 2022 when they shut it down. I think the reason they closed, obviously the sales weren't there and they saw the industry slowing down because of the economy. But I think the number one reason is because they didn't have mass producers, your big name brands that sell, thousands every day. They weren't going to use latex foam because it doesn't fit in with their planned obsolescence philosophy, where they're just building them to break down. And so they fill them with polyurethane foam. They know they're not going to hold up as long, and then people will replace them sooner. That's kind of the grand conspiracy in the industry that's just true. So getting back to latex foam, we started using it when the no-flips came out, which is roughly 20 years ago. So our first no-flip mattress had 2 inches of latex foam in the pillow top. And to this day, we've never had a sag or a soft spot in latex foam. So we continue to be impressed, and we continue to use latex foam as it's one of our staples on our higher end beds because it simply is the most durable foam that money can buy. So that's one of the changes in the industry. In the 50s, I guess we're going back a lot farther than, you know, when we started, but in the 50s is when we saw the explosion of polyurethane foam in the mattress industry. But even in the 90s, there wasn't that much polyurethane foam in the mattresses themselves. There was just maybe 3/4 of an inch or an inch tops and on top of the coils. And so you had very firm beds was what everyone was used to. And since there wasn't anything to compare to until water beds came out, you know, everyone just kind of slept on basically the same mattress. There wasn't a lot of variety. Water beds came out, pillow tops came out, all of a sudden mattresses started getting thicker. They started to make deep pocket sheets. The sheets up to then were only made for 9-inch beds. And then it got to be, I mean, it got to the point where people were making mattresses that were over 20 inches deep, 20. And that's just kind of grotesque, really. We call them fattresses when these companies make them overly thick. They're just, sometimes they'll stick 4 or 5 inches of polyurethane foam under the coil where you never sleep, you know, the one-sided bed on the bottom. You never, it doesn't do you any good, but it just creates this really thick look. And so over the years, we've seen polyurethane foam lose its strength and durability. And so we have, you know, backed away from how much polyurethane foam we use. So that's a little bit about coils. Like I said, there wasn't a huge variety. Back in the day, in the 90s, there was a 312 coil. Again, that's a coil count in a full-size bed. So we had a 312 coil, and then we stepped up to something like this, which would have had around 400 or 500 coils with a different design, different shape, where the coil's the same circumference all the way up and down. And then we got into 660 was the highest coil count for many years. And then pocketed coils became available. And at first we didn't know what to think about pocketed coils because only Simmons used it, you know, and so we didn't know what to think. We did know they weren't very bouncy, and that's a good thing. And so we started slowly putting them in our lineup. And what we noticed is people preferred the feel of a mattress with a pocketed coil because when one person moves, it doesn't transfer motion nearly as much as the old-fashioned springs did. So today, and probably the last 14, 15 years, our whole lineup is exclusively pocketed coils. And the pocketed coils give you the durability of a metal coil system with the comfort, the added comfort. Because when you look at a mattress like we do as engineers, as people who design them, there's two components to a mattress. There's your support, which is what's down below, and then there's the comfort. It's the layers on top. And they work together, but a pocketed coil kind of does some of the comfort work, meaning like you could sleep just on a pocketed coil with no foam and it'd feel pretty good. So, you know, they're more comfortable than a traditional coil. You're not giving up any durability. And in fact, they're actually more bendable, so they work really well on an adjustable base. And then there's been innovation in the pocketed coils too, with the amount of coils that are in there. Used to be, when they first came out, you had your coil counts around 600 in a full, and that was about it. And now today we're using, you know, to switch to a queen coil count, we're in the 2000. So our top of the line models, our firmer beds, use a 2000 coil. It's 2000 coils in a queen. So a lot tighter packed in. Each coil is on the softer side. If you isolated one coil, it'd be fairly soft, but you put them all in there and pack them in there, and they end up being a little bit firmer, and they can support a lot more weight too. So if you're a heavier person, this coil is going to support you better. Now, that's some of the good innovations. Some of the bad innovations that we've seen in the industry is anytime you have a product like latex, you're going to have a product sometimes that comes in that's synthetic latex. This is a sample of it, and we've had it here for a while. It's kind of crumbly, you can see. But the difference with genuine latex and synthetic latex is synthetic has no rubber, and it has kind of the look and feel of, you know, that's why it's synthetic. We call it fake latex, because if you don't have the component that makes it super durable, then you're just getting something that's kind of fake. And tires are a good example. So your tires aren't 100% rubber. They use synthetic rubber and real rubber combined to make a very durable product. And latex foam is the same way. We don't use synthetic latex. A lot of companies do. And I've heard mattress salesmen, they'll say almost anything. They'll regurgitate anything their boss tells them to say. And we've heard a lot over the years. And one of the things we've heard about the quote unquote benefits of synthetic latex is that it doesn't get crumbly and dry out over the years. But as you can see from this sample, this one's definitely crumbly and drying out. So that's definitely not the case. It doesn't have the track record. Latex foam, real latex foam, has been around for 100 years. And people in the industry who know and who will tell you the truth will tell you there's no foam that's more durable than latex foam. And at Comfort King, we have 20 years of experience. And so that's why we bring it from Belgium. Now, one innovation in the industry that has not been great is the use of foam core in the mattress to replace the inner spring. And some people ask, why are foam core so prevalent now? And before the website beds took off, the box beds, I think the reason that companies like using a foam core so much is because it cut down on labor. So a foam core mattress, which is all most of your Tempur-Pedics, a lot of other brands too, and certainly most of the box bed website beds that if people order online, they're all foam core beds. And the thing is that what you got to understand about these box bed website companies, they don't actually make mattresses. Most of them are just ordering the foam core mattress from the companies that make foam, the polyurethane foamers. And they actually tell them what to glue together. And they'll glue, like this is a chunk of memory foam. And they have a conveyor belt system and they just spray glue on it, robots, and then they glue the two pieces together and then they put it in a stretch fabric, smash it into a box, and then you end up with something like this. So this is what a box bed is. They put it in a machine. It literally smashes it down to nothing and then rolls it up and sucks all the air out of the bag and keeps it, vacuum locked. This is the worst innovation that I've seen come to the mattress industry, and for a couple reasons. One is you're not making anything better by completely smashing it. Especially, the concern people have with mattresses is that they keep, bouncing back and that they have integrity, especially where you lay all the time. It's got to take your body abuse for 8 hours a day. And so taking it and totally smashing it for, weeks or months, it's not good for the product. The second reason this is a bad innovation is because it doesn't help you, the consumer, buy a bed. Now, does it make it easier? Well, yeah, clicking a button is easy, but you're not really getting to lay on it, obviously, and you're not really getting educated on what you're buying. And it allows disreputable fly-by-night companies, and frankly, most of these brands, if you go look online for a website bed, a lot of them are brand new. Never heard of them. I've never heard of them. And they probably won't be here in 2 years. So they're here today, gone tomorrow. And that doesn't benefit you. It's not like there's a shortage of mattress stores in this country. If you live near any population center, you're going to have dozens of mattress stores. In our town in Sioux Falls, there's like 50 places where you can go buy a mattress just in person. So there's no shortage of competition. There's no shortage of options for Americans. So basically the box bed, the website box bed, solved a problem that never existed. That problem didn't exist. It just, people got kind of used to buying stuff online during COVID. Maybe they're afraid to go shopping. But really, there's no benefit to buying a mattress online. There's certainly no benefit to smashing it into a small box. So we don't do that here. I've had people try to talk me into having box beds in here. We're not going to do it. And the reason is we're trying to build the world's best mattress. And you're not doing that. Number one, if you take the coils out, mattress salesmen, like I said, they'll tell you anything to sell something. A lot of times salespeople are like politicians. They're single-minded on getting what they want. And, telling you the truth is not a priority to them. So we've heard mattress salesmen tell people that foam core mattress is more durable than an inner spring mattress. And that's the most ridiculous thing you could say, because who in the world believes that foam is stronger than steel? Can you name one application in construction, in the building trades, anywhere, like concrete? When you build a bridge, you build out of steel and concrete. You don't put polyurethane foam in the concrete to strengthen it. So there's no real example of foam being stronger than steel. That's another salesman talk. That, oh yeah, that's it. They don't care. They're not going to be there in 8 years when you have a problem. We will. So we refuse to use foam cores here, even though a lot of companies do, and it's popular. But we're not going to do what's popular. We're going to do what's best for you. And so, we've talked about the foams. We've talked about the coils, and there's a lot of a hubbub and stuff around fabrics. What's one thing we don't really get into too much here at Comfort King? All of our beds have nice fabrics. They're breathable, they're soft and pliable. and they can take the abuse of laying on them. So they're not going to pill out, they're not going to separate, and they can take the abuse of being sewn all the way around. So they can take a lot of needle punches, including in the middle where they're quilted. Those are our criteria for fabrics. None of them have magical healing powers or any of these copper or PCMs, which stands for phase change material. There's CBD oil they're putting in some of these fabrics now. Most of that's just a sales pitch that isn't going to help you at all. Frankly, your sheets have more to do with how hot you sleep than anything that your mattress is made out of. However, when it comes to heat distribution and being concerned about heat, that's a real issue that people have, and you should be, but just don't listen to mattress salesmen tell you that there's such a thing as cooling foam or cooling memory foam, because that's a big story that like Tempur-Pedic salesmen will tell you and other people that are trying to sell you products. But as someone in the industry who deals directly with the companies that make these components, that's all a sham. There are foams that'll sleep cooler than others, but none of them will cool you down, okay? So I'll say that again. There's no foam that'll cool you down. Now, there is a product that we've seen that actually does sleep cooler than foam, and that's gel. And we use gel. We use it for two main reasons. One is that it does sleep cooler, roughly 5 degrees cooler than foam. And the second reason we use it, the most important reason, is because it's comfortable. It's a great pressure point relief. In fact, gel with the collapsing columns is what the technology is called, has been used in the medical field for over 20 years before it became widespread in the mattress industry as a whole, because of its properties of helping people who are burn victims, people who are bedridden, people who are in a wheelchair. So gel, simply put, is the most comfortable cushion in the world. And we bring ours from our partner in Italy that makes it. And we have a couple different kinds, including Float, which we invented. We can get into that later. Bottom line, gel is at the top of the hierarchy of cushioning materials. So you have gel, then you have latex, and then you have a bunch of other kind of fancy polyurethane foams like memory foam and other foams like that have other properties in them that make them comfortable. And then you have your basic poly foams, which is what most companies use. So that's kind of a brief rundown on the mattress industry the last, 100 years, I guess. But for me, I've been a designer building them and servicing them and dealing directly with the consumer for the past 30 years. We're always learning. We're always interested in new things, but we just want you to know what's on the inside is the most important thing. And don't get distracted by fancy fabrics, pretty fabrics that look nice and feel good to the hand. And don't get distracted by, of course, fake sales, because it's kind of the industry's trick for getting you to turn your brain off and just buy the thing that they have there. So thanks for watching today, and we'll be back later with more mattress facts.